Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the Inner Circle podcast. I am your host, your Sherpa, your guide on this journey, David Nour. Delighted you're here. If you don't know anything about me, I've spent the last 2 decades really focused on becoming a student of business relationships. And the good-looking green book behind me that you can see, this is book number 12. Relationship economics is kind of what I'm known for. And it's been recommended to me that I should go seek professional help because I think a lot about this topic. I think a lot about this idea that relationships are. I had a really interesting conversation with somebody. I believe that to be relationships to be our only sustainable differentiation. Think about it a second. Regardless of what product or service you sell or what role you're in, somebody will always have a faster, cheaper, better product, better solution, different solution. But years ago, I'm talking 30 years ago, I would tell clients that they should deal with me and my company because of me. They should buy this product from me because of me. And I've always believed that one-to-one connection. And these are some of the things I deeply and philosophically believe in, that relationships are not between buildings and logos. They're between individuals. Nobody buys from my logo or from my good-looking building. They buy from me. And it's not just product or services. If you're not in sales and you're thinking, how is this relevant to me? It's also buying of your ideas and your perspectives. And why should we do this way? So if relationships are between individuals, what I believe social media broadly has propagated is quantity over quality. I've got 20,000 contacts on LinkedIn. I don't know half of them. And I think that's true for most people. And what other tools, technologies, platforms in my life fail me at on a daily basis is they don't provide any insights into that relationship depth. How long have we known each other? Have we gone through ups and downs? They don't provide any insights into relationship health. Would you take my call if I said, John Smith sent me, or would you hang up on me? And they don't provide any insights into the relevance. That person was in that job a year ago. They were in that job 3 months ago, but 3 months ago, they changed jobs and they haven't updated their profile. So you're barking up the wrong tree. So when I say student of business relationships, relationships are highly nuanced based on our background, experiences, approach, how we show up, the other person we're engaging, their preferences, their likes, dislikes, prejudices, and the context in which we work together. All of those create this multi-dimensional approach in what works, what doesn't, how do I measure it, how do I move it along a continuum. All of that to say, I believe relationships should be intentional. They should be strategic. And as such, they need to be quantifiable. Because if you believe the notion that relationships are an investment, you wouldn't make investments blindly. You would always look for ways to optimize your invested time, effort, resources. So relationships should, real, authentic, genuine, mutually value-based relationships should provide an extraordinary return, but not if you don't nurture it, not if you don't sustain it, not if you don't actively relate to it and make requests of it and invest in it, right? So those are all themes, terminology, attributes that I often think about, I often put around this idea that relationships are our single biggest asset. Beyond my educational foundation, beyond my professional pedigree, the breadth, depth, quality, mutually valuable relationships I choose to build. And it's a choice. On any given day, I could talk to 50 different people. Which ones? And how do you know? And if you believe this idea that relationships are investment, you cannot invest in everybody equally. So how will you then prioritize which relationships you invest in? I've read, and I've got bookshelves. I got to take pictures and show you bookshelves to prove this. I've read over 100 books on business relationships, 108 to be exact. And I couldn't find a scale that showed me the value, the depth, the relevancy of some of my relationships versus the others. So years ago, I think the original relationship economics book that I wrote. Years ago, I built this idea of, and I'm gonna share my screen, of this idea of a relationship value pyramid. Here you go. The relationship value pyramid says a whole bunch of people you meet or situation. At the very bottom of the pyramid, they come, they go. This is the you never know stack of business cards. Your access to them is occasional, and it's a very collegial relationship. The next group are investments. You invest time, effort, resources to get to know them. You give them a chance to get to know you. By the way, every one of us asks other people to trust us on a daily basis. What are you doing to give them a chance to get to know you? Because only when we really get to know other people will we open up and share more. And sociologists tell us this all the time. When we meet somebody else, we give a little. They take, they judge, they give a little. We take, we judge, we give a little. This natural exchange. Too much, too fast, and you're like, whoa, 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 dude, we just met. Not enough, and you're keeping people at arm's length. And the perception becomes you're cold or distant or guarded. So you have to find that natural rhythm of exchange of information, of value, of knowledge, of relationships. Next level, portfolio. These are your subject matter experts. They're your go-to people. Your access to them is frequent, it's collaborative. They know more about that area or that geography than anybody else. And they can dramatically accelerate our time to impact, our time to cash, our time to results, our time to that next milestone. The very pinnacle of everybody you know, we call them your 2 a.m.s. You literally could call them 2 in the morning, and the first question is, are you okay? There's a certain immediate access to these people, and it's a very interdependent relationship. You may have heard of entrepreneurs say, I need to talk to my attorney before I commit to that. I need to talk to my accountant before, I really need Beth's comments on this before we move forward. That's at 2 a.m. By the way, I'm assuming your brother and brother-in-law are, part of that. These are business relationships. And the 2 a.m.s have reached a certain, almost like an X factor. Now, I've been thinking about that X factor. And the reason I'm giving you this background is I think it's important to understand where ideas come from. I've been thinking about those 2 a.m.s and that X factor for a whole bunch of years. And if you're curious, the books I write. So before Relationship Economics, I wrote Curve Benders. Before that, I wrote Co-Create. Books take about 4 years for me to kind of percolate. And at some point, you've read enough, you've talked enough, you've shared enough, you've consulted enough, you've coached enough, you've spoken enough about something where you feel like you have something to say. And then I start the physical task of writing, and I interview people, and I get different perspectives. And I've always believed the fine line between confident and arrogant is confidence says I know a lot, but there's a lot more I can learn. Arrogance says I know a lot, there's nothing new I can learn. So I'm typically confident in, I believe this is more than just an individual or a team or a company or an industry issue. I believe this topic to have a broad reach. So the 2 a.m.s are your most prized. Those are your most valuable relationships. And they're not a sliver of time. It's not like people you work with a whole bunch of hours in a project. As soon as the project is done, everybody scatters. This is the holistic view of, I have known Bob for 20 years. We've been through thick and thin. We've butted heads. I've met his wife or spouse. I've met his kids. We've been to my house. I've been to his. We vacation or travel together. These are deep, meaningful, authentic relationships. So a subset of, and the reason I showed you the value pyramid, a subset of those 2 a.m.s, I believe, are fantastic candidates for your inner circle. And if you were able to join us in the last episode, if not, I would encourage you, go check it out. Go, YouTube or wherever you consume podcasts. We've uploaded in several avenues, popular avenues. In the episode 1, I spent a lot of time really defining what an inner circle is. And just to quickly recap, a curated group of high-value relationships that inspire, challenge, elevate, and amplify your personal and professional growth through mutual trust, measurable collaboration, and shared success. I'll go ahead and put it in the comments. And by the way, we're also live on, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, both my personal and also Avneer. So there's several places where you can connect with us. I would encourage you, jump in if you have questions or comments as I go through this topic. So in episode 1, I broke that down into 10 key components, and I really went into a good amount of depth for each of those. And I would encourage you to go back and listen. In this episode, I really want to talk about 10 attributes, 10 characteristics, 10 critical success factors. And a really easy way for you to think about this is if you had a scorecard. So you already heard of everybody I know, there are very specific categories based on depth and relevance. How well I know someone and how relevant are they to not just where I am today, but in my journey from now to next. This is where I am today. This is where I'm going. In that journey, who do I have? Where do I have deep relationships? And who is most relevant? The very pinnacle of the pyramid are my 2 a.m.s. A subset of that are my inner circles. Almost like to the, and I'm working on a graphic of this, but almost to the right of that pinnacle is now my inner circle. So if you had a scorecard for who should be, and equally valuable is going to be who shouldn't be in that inner circle, it might go and look through something like this. So unequivocally, and this is the classic case of if it doesn't pass the test with this first attribute, the rest is moot point. Is this idea of demonstrated trust, this idea of innate trust, this idea of felt. That's another way I keep talking about trust. Felt trust. A lot of people talk about trust. I'm telling you, it makes me cringe when you hear people say, trust me. Because most people don't. I don't. Trust has to be felt. Trust is felt when you align. And the only way I think about this is brand equity versus, or brand promise and brand equity. A brand promise is you buy this brand of a jacket. It is well made. It is going to perform. It's going to keep you warm. It's going to last. I'll wash it. It's not going to fall apart. It is functional. Right? All of those things are part of the brand promise because I haven't had an experience with it. That brand promise believes in a certain things and is out promising those with their brand, with their logo, with their icon, with their look and feel, with all those brand attributes. Okay, human nature. I like to be sold. I love to buy, and I get it. I buy it. I am drinking the Kool-Aid. So what do? I will spend a premium for that brand promise. And then I wear it. I buy it. It looks good. It looks good on me. I get compliments on it. It feels good, right? I feel cool in it. It is warm. It's comfortable. Damn it. I spilled mustard on it and I washed it and it came out and I still look good on it the 10th time I wear it. So now I don't just believe what was promised, I have experienced it. So when I say demonstrated trust, felt trust, experienced trust, trust equity, not just the promise of trust. That is non-negotiable, fundamental. So the first thing you want to look for is who has demonstrated that trust in your interactions over the years, in your frequency, recency, consistency of those interactions. So a member of your inner circle has to be unbelievably reliable. They have to transparency, honesty, prioritize confidentiality. Because if this is my most intimate group that hopefully I don't have to pretend around, I can be candid with my highlights and my lowlights. And as part of that discussion, they make it okay for me to open up, and they foster this openness and transparency. And I know I'm going to be okay. That Bob's never going to do anything to make me look bad. That Bob is a wise counsel. That Bob is unbelievably trustworthy. I'll have no problems talking to Bob about what's going well in my life and what sucks, what I'm struggling with, what my issues are. So first and foremost has to be that connection between a brand promise and a brand equity, the promise of trust and the equity of trust, that felt trust, that experienced trust, that unquestionable, that I want to get this done, I'm going to go to Bob. That Eric doesn't have an agenda. That James is an unbelievable sounding board, and I trust his wisdom, his counsel, his sounding board. So I want you to really think about this idea of, again, earned equity, alignment between what you perceived and what you got, a bias for that trustworthiness with that. And people talk about integrity, people talk about trustworthiness, people, and what you experience is hypocrisy. Without naming names, I have worked with an executive coach. Think of someone you put on this pedestal who just first chance that he got joined the cancel culture, joined, assumptions. And you put this person on a pedestal, and when they utterly disappoint, when what you experience is hypocrisy, which, by the way, I don't want to go on a tangent, but I think a lot of people have this problem with organized religion, right? With the pastor who stands in the front, or the synagogue, or whatever, the imam in the mosque, and they preach one thing, and then you either experience them doing something complete opposite. You're like, wait, what happened? So that's really difficult to kind of feel like that person belongs in your inner circle, right? So number one, demonstrated equity, felt around. I've captured all that around this idea of trust. Number two, reciprocal respect. Relationships are built, nurtured, sustained based on shared admiration of the other person's skills, values, contribution, impact. When that admiration, when that respect is mutual, and again, not just talked about, but defended in the rooms that person's not in conversations they're not in, when someone takes a less than a kind position, they defend them because they know them and they've experienced those things with them. That reciprocal respect. And I want you to think about people you respect. Don't we hold them in a higher level of regard than others? People you respect, you try not to be late to a meeting. People you respect, you don't ghost. People you respect, and there's mutual respect, you're very responsive in your communication. People you respect, you prioritize. So I want you to look for observable behaviors. Is there reciprocal respect? Not just a buddy over a round of golf, but is there demonstrated? And I'm going to keep coming back to demonstrate. How they show up and the consistency with which they show up becomes critical. So reciprocal respect is number 2. If you just joined us, I'm covering the 10 attributes of inner circle. One was, I'm still toying with the exact description, but I wrote demonstrated or equity or felt trust. This has to be felt. It can't be talked about. 2, reciprocal respect. Reciprocal respect says there's a shared admiration and a shared level of appreciation for each other's skills, how they do something, their values, what they will and won't do, and contributions. So end of the day, don't talk to me about what we could do. Be that sounding board. Help me move the big boulders in my life forward. That's what makes you invaluable. Number 3, diverse perspectives. You need that inner circle. A really easy way to think about this. If you gather people who are as brilliant as you, everybody thinks just like you do. And yep, Nour, great job. Just great job. You know what you're going to get? Groupthink until you go over that cliff. Yep, I thought that was a great idea. And then the bottom somehow fell out. That's where people work themselves into bankruptcy or legal troubles or really bad ideas or M&A deals that look great on paper, but they don't materialize. Or hiring that person against your better judgment, or firing that person based on an incident or one matter versus kind of the overarching or the long-term perspective. So diverse perspectives you look for, and I've been a big fan of, unfortunately, when you say diversity, a lot of people think of gender and ethnic, and those are valuable. I don't want to take anything away from that. I just also greatly value cognitive diversity. So a mix of backgrounds. Again, surround yourself with, I'm painting with a broad brush, but I think you get it, a whole bunch of Ivy League types, and you don't have anybody in that group that has come from nothing. And they're scrappy and resourceful, and their families didn't belong to the country club, and they had to work through school to make ends meet. And after a long day of school, come home and you have chores. And so if you don't surround yourself with diverse backgrounds, and by the way, industries, there are nuances in a whole bunch of different industries, different facets of industries, but more importantly, in cognitive diversity, what I'm looking for is perspectives. I'm looking for viewpoints that ideally challenge my assumptions, my assertions, my thinking, and broadens my purview. You have to, most of us go through the day with blinders on. We really do, because that's what I'm focused on. And as an operator, that's what I want to try to get done. And right on my periphery, I might be able to see it, but do I have people in my inner circle that live in those environments and can light a flashlight into, dude, you got to be paying more attention to this. So diverse perspective is number 3. I believe certain dose of respectful pushback is healthy in relationships. So when you surround yourself with that diverse perspective, their backgrounds, their industries, their viewpoints, their experiences, their relationships, shed a light, challenge your assumption. We all need our assumptions and assertions challenged in a respectful way for not just what we don't know. And I always say this, I'm never afraid of what I don't know. I'm always afraid of what I don't know, because that can be a 2x4 with a rusted nail in it coming in my head. So what assumptions are you making about your business, about your people, about your strategy, about your direction, about your true partners? What assumptions? What assertions? I've noticed we all have an opinion, right? I believe, I think, or they just outright say it. That's just wrong. How do you know? I'm just curious. How do you know? What makes you think that? What makes you say that? Where did that come from? Why is that important to you? You need to be around people who are going to ask you those questions. Otherwise, you're going to go down a path, and you've seen this. You're digging for gold 50 feet below the surface over here, and it's 5 feet below the surface over here. So a personal example. It's early, but in building Avneer, classic founder, vision. Hey, I want to do all these things. And Pete Carl II, we call him PK2, has recently joined us, our CTO. And others have suggested this. He's actually living it. And we're going down this path together of all the things we could do. Where can we focus? What one thing can we do in the Avneer platform that we do exceptionally well, that really sets us apart? And I've heard it. I've had other people say it. I've had other people reinforce it. When this guy's elbows deep in our code and is suggesting this, it brings a whole different level of, yeah, there's a lot we could do. When we do this one thing really well, then we can tackle the next one based on business outcomes, based on what our relationships are asking for. So if you just joined us, I'm covering the 10 attributes of an inner circle. This should be a scorecard for you. 1 was demonstrated or equity or felt trust. 2 is reciprocal respect. So there's shared admiration of each other's skills, values, contributions. 3 is diverse perspectives. I want you to think of cognitive diversity of backgrounds, industries, viewpoints that challenge your assumptions and assertions. That's really important. Number 4, supportive accountability. So what you want your inner circle to do is bolster you. What you need your inner circle to do is accelerate your time to traction, your time to impact. If I've got to talk to 50 people, how can I prioritize these 12 people to get that impact or that milestone that I'm after? But supportive accountability not just encourages you to achieve goals and milestones and your OKRs and your New Year's resolutions, and they hold you accountable for your commitments in an incredibly supportive way. You know what that looks like? Nour, when we met last month, you said you were going to do these 3 things. If you did them, how did they go? What did you learn? What worked? What didn't? If you didn't do them, why not? And what has to happen for you to get there? I don't need that from an authoritative figure. I need that from a sounding board. I need that from a peer. I need that from somebody I admire. I need that from somebody I respect. I need somebody that I know brings a very different lens or perspective. I need that from someone who I feel I have to, relationships cannot be talked about. It has to be felt. I feel that that person has demonstrated vested interest in my success. What they're holding me to account for is an enabler of my success. If I listen to them, when I listen to them, I may not agree. I may certainly not like it. But when I listen to them, I will be better off than I am today. That's how inner circles really deliver their really unique value. So supportive accountability. I want you to think of rocket boosters attached to the shuttle to get you into orbit. the shuttle cannot get there by themselves. And my supposition to you is you throw enough time, effort, money, resources at any goal, you'll eventually get there. One of the most unbelievable and I believe undervalued assets of this type of relationships I'm calling inner circle is the ability to accelerate, to be that tailwind, to bolster us, to look at what rocket boosters do to a shuttle, support us in an unbelievable way to get us to where we're trying to get to. So number 4, supportive accountability. Number 5, I captured transparent authenticity. Because I don't know about you, I'm incredibly drawn to people where what you see is what you get. What you see is what you get, and they're genuine. There's not an agenda. There's not a side hustle. There's not a, they bring their real self. They bring their true self. They bring who they are, what they're about, what they believe to the relationship without pretense, without a facade, without a, I told you, I remember distinctly a former pastor did a whole sermon on the bigger the gap between who you really are and who you pretend to be, the more exhausting life becomes. So you want people in your inner circle. This is your most valuable. These are your most prized, right? This is your board of advisors. This is your own personal board of directors. It has to be transparent authenticity. You want to deal with the real them, and you want to ensure that they're dealing with the real you without a, that's what I said. When I say you don't have to feel like you have to impress these people, you don't have to try to be someone you're not, including, and this is really hard. Again, I'm painting with a very broad brush, but men in particular, that vulnerability is really hard. I am struggling with this because if you don't have somebody to say that to professionally, without paying a shrink, right, a therapist, I think we all need that. I'm struggling with this because I'm struggling with my faith. I'm struggling with money. I'm struggling with my spouse. I'm struggling with the whole you, all of you. You want that from them, the whole, like the best version of them to come to the table, just like you want to bring the best version of you to that table. So you just joined us. I'm covering this is the second episode of the Inner Circle podcast or live stream. I'm covering the top 10 attributes of an inner circle. Number 1, demonstrated equity, felt trust, non-negotiable foundation. I talked a lot about that. 2, reciprocal respect. So there's shared admiration for somebody's skills, values, their contributions. 3, diverse perspectives. I believe in cognitive diversity. People are going to challenge based on their backgrounds, industries, upbringing, perspectives, viewpoints. They're going to challenge your assumptions and your assertions. Number 4, supportive accountability. They're going to bolster you like a booster's attached to a rocket to get you into outer orbit, right? 5, transparent authenticity. Their genuineness. I love salt of the earth people. I love people who you meet them and as you engage them, you feel, you're going to get sick of me saying this has to be felt. You feel that that's who they are. You feel that that's authentic. That's real. That's who they are. That's how they show up. That's how they show up in every one of your interactions. Again, I don't know about you. I am in awe of people I meet who listen so intently. They make you feel like you're the only person in the world. Do you ever do that? Are you ever in those meetings where you just like, oh my God, I'm just like, I've got a, man crush on this person, or I've got a, in a non-creepy way, crush on this female executive because they just, they reduce all the noise and all the distractions and they put this damn thing away. Not face down, not face up. They're watch isn't ringing or pinging, or they remove any and all distractions, and in their discussion, in their engagement, in their conversation with you, make you feel like you're the only person in the world. I aspire to be one of those people. I recently met with the CEO of probably about a $3 billion in revenue. And many of my executive clients have this. It's a large corner, cliche, but large corner office, and they have their desk and chairs in front of it, and they sit over there and you sit over here, and right. And this executive has a couch. I love this. Has like a little sitting area and a couch and a coffee table, and right, it's got a little espresso machine, and completely just non-presumption. Just, hey, just come and just sit here, and door is closed. Nobody's just interrupting. There's no ringing, flashing, anything. Just you sit one-on-one and connect, because that is what transparent authenticity looks like to me. And I was there to help him. So I love that kind of a connection with somebody of just, they make you feel like you're the only person in the world. And I think more of us could really benefit from that. So number 6, it's really around this shared, highly relevant, intertwined values. If I hustle, if I'm a hustler in a positive context, right? Full disclosure, both yesterday and today, I was up at 4 a.m., left the house or the hotel at 5 a.m. for a 7 a.m. flight. And, both nights you go into 9, 10, 11 at night. And it takes a real effort to keep up that energy, right? So that's what I mean by hustle. You got to hustle. And I've always admired that. You know who's on my inner circle? People who enjoy hustling. People who maybe their parents did it, or they've been around siblings, or their kids are this way. But that hustle, and I've always said, there is a lot of people that are much smarter than I am. There's a people that are a lot wealthier than I am. There's a lot of people but you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody who's going to outwork David Nour. That hustle, I take enormous pride in. And I'm telling you, if that's a value that you believe in, that you value, that's important to you, your inner circle they better understand it. They better similarly value it or prioritize it, appreciate it. And they could call it different things. You don't want to call it hustle, call it energy, call it scrappiness, resourcefulness, call it, right? But you get exactly what I'm talking about, that hustle. So this idea of shared and highly intertwined values is really alignment. Again, demonstrated in core principles, in core purpose, in core foundation, that you build the collaboration, that you build the trust on. Because if you're not on the same page of what it takes to, in that journey, you're going to have all kinds of friction. You're going to So, full disclosure, I have a bias for action, and I try to bring personal examples. So hopefully, this will resonate with you. I've always had a massive bias for action. We could sit and talk about and strategize, and let me discuss the 18 different ways this could. At some point, you got to paint or get off the ladder. So that, again, that bias, I want a sounding board. I want to make sure we're not rushing judgment. We're not rushing, right? By the same token, that's a huge value of mine. That's a huge core principle. That's a huge purpose in what I'm trying to build, is a bias for action. So stop talking to me about it and let's move. I've had mentors driven into me. When you're 60% ready, move. When you're 80% ready, move. If you're waiting for whatever you're working on to be perfect, you're going to miss that window of opportunity. So in your inner circle, get crystal clear on what are the values, what are the things you deeply, what at a cellular level, what do you believe in? You already know a couple about me: hustle, energy, right? I'm never going to ask somebody to do something I wouldn't do myself. That servant leadership, that servant mindset. 3, bias for action. Let's move. You want to know my strategic plan? Let's get things done. That is my strategic plan. We will get things done. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to design it for ad nauseum. And it just, you'll see a vein pop up in my neck when I feel like we've had the 15th conversation on something and we still can't move this from here to here. So this shared, intertwined, aligned, those are all about your DNA at a cellular level. What do you believe in? What do you stand for? What won't you stand for? That you better make sure whoever you bring into inner circle has those aligned. Moving on. So we're covering the 10 attributes of an inner circle. Number 7. I want you to think of reciprocity, but I want you to think of enhanced or elevated reciprocity. So I said earlier, relationships are an investment. None of us makes an investment blindly. When we invest in someone else, when we do something for someone else, there's 3 fundamental laws in business relationships. Number 1 is gratitude. You do something for somebody, at a minimum, they should say thank you. Number 2, I've always said this, is reciprocity. Maybe not today, tomorrow, next week, or next year, but at some point, you're so kind. Thank you for your help. What can I do to help you? How can I be an asset to you? You took the time to hear my challenges. What can I do to support you? That's that built-in. That's that. They almost like feel obligated. That I need to reciprocate your kindness. And the third one is, by the way, pay it forward. Right? If I do something for you, if I coach you, mentor you, ideally, I want to experience you doing that for somebody else. So within your inner circle, that mutual investment in each other's success has to offer value and support in that journey, right? Remember, now to next. The reason I want to build an inner circle, I know where I am today. I know where I want to get to. I want to accelerate my ability from now to next to get there. So when it's enhanced or elevated reciprocity, not only they say thank you, not only they say, what can I do to help you? They go out of their way to ensure that their reciprocity is elevated. It's enhanced. You took an hour, and this is, again, without keeping score. That's just who they are, what they're about. You were kind enough to invite them to an event. They invite you to and again, don't misconstrue my comment. This is not one-upmanship. They invite you to a deeper, more exclusive event. You spend an hour with them, helping them on something. They're available. They suggest 3 other areas that could help you. This is what I'm talking about. It's not the quantity. It's not it's really enhanced. It's elevated reciprocity. Inner circle does that because of who they are, not the obligation they feel. Look for people who go above and beyond. That's probably a really good way to think about it. Above and beyond what you may ask of them, what you might expect of them. Another way I like to think about this: they don't just follow up, they follow through. Follow up, I've always believed, is transaction. Hey, did you get that email that I sent you? Yep. Thanks. See ya. Follow through is a process. Did you get it? Did you have a chance to look at it? Did it solve the problem you were after? How else can I support you from that output to its ultimate outcome, impact, and value? So, side note, I've always believed a lot of people generate output, right? Here's a report. Here's a competitive thing. Here's a data point for you. That's output. It's important, but you cannot stop there. You have to combine that output with outcome, which is the insights from that report. So the report said this is what I extract out. That's the insight, right? That's the outcome from the output. Really valuable, but you cannot stop there because the next step is impact. From that report, the insights we took, the actions we took, the insights provoked us, created an opportunity. There's a call to action. We took action on those insights, and here's how I'm better off, the business is better off, the project's better off. That's where value comes from. So when I say enhanced or elevated reciprocity, they combine. If you've worked on an output, they combine that with outcome and impact to ensure value creation, material, real, lasting value creation. That's what your inner circle does naturally, without having to be told, without having to be asked. They do it because that's who they are and that's how they show up. I'm sharing the 10 attributes of inner circle. We're at number 8. Exponential. Exponential. Growth oriented. Not incremental. Incremental is great. Exponential is fantastic. They encourage your continuous personal and professional development through unbelievably constructive, here we go, feed forward. I learned that from Marshall Goldsmith. And insights from their observations. Let me say it again. They encourage kind of your ongoing, continuous, personal and professional development through constructive feed forward and actionable insights. So what does that look like? Number 1, again, I'm sharing some philosophical things with you. There's a reason our windshield is bigger than our rear view mirror. Most people, if they're kind, they will provide you feedback. That is my rear view mirror because I cannot do something about what happened yesterday, last week, last month, last year, 10 years ago. Your inner circle is ideally providing you feed forward. I mentioned your journey from now to next, feed forward. What does that look like? In your next 3 steps, here's something I would encourage you to think about. I had one of these conversations earlier today, and the relationship is early, but I genuinely believe, I have an enormous amount of respect for this person, and I really believe he could profoundly change the direction of my life. So that's what I mean by exponential, not incremental, not a little bit better, but exponential growth orientation. And the reason I bring up this gentleman is I ran an idea by him. I want to work with others like him. And he says, if you say that to others, it will be a kiss of death. So don't say that. He didn't say you shouldn't have said that to me. What he said was, in your next conversation with someone, avoid these potholes, avoid these traps, avoid these areas where it could cause you unnecessary aggravation. And right, that's what I mean by feed forward. Help me look through my windshield in that journey from now to next of how do I need to not just talk about a growth mindset, but implement it, bring it to life, right? I love new experiences. I love new opportunities to learn and grow and become a better version, if not the best version of me. So your inner circle really provides that apparatus, provides that bolstered opportunity for you to exponentially. Liz Wiseman has written a book called Multipliers. I would highly recommend you read it. She talks about leaders who become multipliers. Your inner circle are multipliers of your personal and professional growth. They're a force multiplier of your personal and professional growth. So 8 is exponential growth orientation. 9 is unwavering commitment. I have a question of you. Who do you know professionally who is not busy? Who do you know who doesn't have a lot on their plate? Who do you know that isn't, again, if they've been successful, if they are successful, if there's a lot of demand of them. So when we make a commitment, your inner circle ensures that it's consistent, it's proactive involvement in nurturing, sustaining, right? Maintaining the relationship between you two. And they will go through hell and high water to ensure that whatever they commit to happens. They're not going to promise the world and forget about you. I've got in building Avnir, I've surrounded myself with some really sharp people. A couple of them started really strong, and for whatever reason, life, whatever, they've kind of gotten busy and it's fainted. It's just kind of like, right? So I don't want to quite call them pseudo sounding boards or right, but just they're not, the commitment is not there. It's not right. You're not top of mind. And I'm telling you, life's too short for all of us to be around people who promise the world and they can't deliver. They don't deliver any of it. It's not that they're not capable. They're either distracted, they got too many other things going on, misaligned expectations, whatever. But 9 is unwavering commitment. So the consistent, proactive involvement in nurturing. You got to till the soil. You got to feed it. You got to prune it. You got to take care of it, and maintaining the relationship. Last but not least, it really is admirable, positive influence. Again, personal story. Have you been around people who you aspire to become? Like I want to be that person. I said this before, motivation is intrinsic. Motivation has to come from within you. Your inner circle should provide the inspiration, energy, to not only for you to become the best version of you, but also the guardrails to avoid negative or toxic people, situations, right? There's no reason you should be in that scenario, that avoid getting yourself into that circumstance, right? So you admire, there's such a positive influence that you admire this positive aura about them, this positive energy that they bring to the relationship, this positive who they are, how they carry themselves, how they dress, how they articulate, their command of the English language. They're well read, they're well traveled. They are the epitome of who you want to become, or certainly how you want other people to think of you or see you. Those are the people that are going to bolster you up. Those are the people that are going to elevate not just who you are, but how you show up on a consistent basis. So surround yourself with more of those people. That's who should be on your inner circle. So just a quick recap. Again, this episode 2 of the Inner Circle podcast and live stream has been focused on top 10 attributes of an inner circle. A really good way to think about it is think about this as your scorecard. And it has a spectrum, but it's a scorecard. 1, demonstrated, there's equity, there's felt trust. And I think that those 3 attributes could apply to all of these, but they don't just talk about trust. It's demonstrated. There's real equity, not just a promise, but equity, and felt. You feel trust around them. 2, reciprocal respect, shared admiration of each other's skills, values, contributions. There's reciprocity in that respect, again, in how they show up. 3, really diverse perspectives. I believe in cognitive diversity. They think of it because of their backgrounds, upbringing, siblings, where they grew up, industries, viewpoints. They challenge your assumptions and assertions because of that cognitive diversity and how they think. 4, supportive accountability, not just hold you accountable, but be the rocket boosters attached to your shuttle to get you into orbit, because they hold you accountable for your commitments. If you did them, how did they go? If you didn't do them, why not? What has to happen for you to get there? 5, transparent authenticity. They are unbelievably genuine. They bring their true selves to the relationship without pretense, without a facade, without pretending. And you don't have to pretend around them. Life is exhausting if you feel like you always have to pretend around other people. I think we're on 6. Yeah, transparent authenticity. 6, shared or intertwined or aligned values. If I brought up hustle, I brought up servant leadership, I brought up energy, I brought up resourcefulness, scrappiness. If those aren't, if you, by the way, if you don't know who you are, it's going to be very difficult for you to try to attract other people where those values are aligned. So really double down on those values. Fewer, the better, but make sure they're important ones. 7 was enhanced or elevated reciprocity. When they reciprocate, obviously you're investing in them. They reciprocate the value, the support. They don't keep score. They just enhance it. They try to really raise the bar, which forces you to raise the bar on how you show up. 8, not just incremental, but exponential growth orientation. So they encourage that continuous personal professional development through constructive feed forward and actionable insights. The insights are great, but you cannot stop there. You got to make sure they're actionable and they actually create real value. 9, unwavering commitment. They don't commit to a lot. As a matter of fact, I'm a big fan of stop overcommitting. So they commit to a few things, but the things they commit to in nurturing and maintaining the relationship, they're very proactive. They're very involved in making sure that the relationship is nurtured and thrives. 10, you have this almost like admirable. They have an admirable positive influence. They want you to become, you want to become a better manager, better leader, better human being, better husband, better brother, better sister, better dad around them. And you so admire this positive influence that they bring. So if this has been useful to you, if this has been valuable to you, I hope you'll come back. I'm live every Tuesday at noon Eastern on, let's see, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and we turn this around pretty quickly and publishes it a podcast. If you come live, I typically will show. You can see that. If you listen to it, I would encourage you, forum.avneer.com, forum.avneer.com. That's our private online community. Come join us there. I'll share more of those show notes and tips and techniques and other things there. But I'm really excited. This is the next book. We're also building some of this functionality in the Avneer platform. So I hope you'll come along this journey with us. Again, my name is David Nour. You can learn more about us at avneer.com. Thanks for joining, and I will see you soon. Thanks, everybody. Take care. All the best. Bye-bye.